Hello and welcome to everybody. Hopefully, you can see and hear us, and just giving everyone a few moments to catch up and log in. But what I'll do is introduce ourselves and the session while we're all settling in. I am Janice B. Gordon, the customer growth expert, and I have the great pleasure to be co-hosting this session of mastering sales hiring for top performers. I am so excited to be having this discussion with Laurie Richardson, the great Laurie Richardson.
Oh,
It's
please.
it's wonderful to. Now we've only got 30 minutes, so what I want to do is, before we start our open session, is really just to set the context here. Why Laurie and I thought it was so important to talk about this subject. Now, we all know in sales that quota attainment is getting ever more difficult, and the number of people that achieve quota isn't consistent enough for the industry. Now, we wanted to have this discussion because the stark reality is that 46% of new sales hire fail within 18 months. Now, this results in a staggering cost and missed opportunities, and these stats are really a wake-up call to the sales industry. Now, as I've mentioned, over the last 30 years, sellers have not been consistent with achieving quota, and it's always been around about 50%. So this underperformance of sellers and sales operations is not only inconvenient, it's really expensive as well. And that can range from 100,000 to millions in lost opportunity costs. So, Laurie, we've got to start to get this right, haven't we? We really do need to have a better process for hiring. So I'd really love to hear from you. What is the starting point?
Yeah, well, Janice, let me first say how excited I am to be here too with you, the Janice Gordon. That's so incredible. You and I share a lot of the same philosophy about sales success, and I like that so much about you, because over time, what I've learned in many years being in the sales business is that people don't understand what the key components to success are, or they just ignore them. And some people think that anyone can do sales, which is not true. Some people think anyone can be trained to be a sales star. It's not true. People need to start with the fundamentals and the most important things. I mean, I think messaging is critical for a rep success. I also know that finding the right people and finding the people that have not just the skills, because skills can be developed, we can teach those, but the will to succeed, and people who are coachable. You've got to start with that. And you've got to have leadership. You have to have a sales manager that's coaching the reps, that's helping support them to success. I just talked to a rep yesterday who's in a new role, and she is telling me that there's some red flags because she said the leader told her, I hired you because you know what to do, and basically isn't getting any coaching and isn't getting any messaging. And I'm just thinking, like, this is a disaster waiting to happen.
Wow.
So I know you would think people would know that they've read things and they've watched people like us talking, and they're just, they continue to not do the fundamentals that are critical for success.
And it's crazy. You just think, really, are we still there? And please do, those that are listening into this, we really want your questions and your participation. So do post in the chat, in the comments. what's resonating with you. If you've shared this experience that Laurie has just talked about, have you joined an organization thinking that you're going to get support and training, and then realizing, there's a red flag here, that you're on your own? If this resonates with you, please do tell us in the chat. We'd love that. It's incredible. That's why we're still in jobs, and there's so much to do. But there is a better way. You may this, Laurie, the predictive effectiveness of the tools that we currently use. And Scale Your Sales, I've interviewed many sales recruiters, and it astounds me that they're still using CVs and resumes, which only has 18% predictive effectiveness. And their traditional interviews and the gut feeling, 20% predictive effectiveness. Personality tests. We all know personality test is not a predictor of sales specific on the job performance. Or referrals. We think companies are offering thousands of pounds for you to refer people, thinking they're going to get more of the same. Guess what? You're going to get more of the same, which means you're going to get more people in that have no predictive effectiveness based on that resource. So where are we going wrong? Why are we constantly doing the same things?
Yeah, I think it's interesting that people say, oh, we're very, data-driven, we're a data-driven company, but they don't hire that way. And it's surprising to me, because there are tools, and Scale Your Sales, as well as Score More Sales. We've figured out a process to do that, where 92% of the people who are recommended to move forward in the process reach the top half of the sales force within 1 year. I mean, 92%. Did you ever have that luck as a manager? I mean, I never hired better than 50%. I mean, I'll admit it. And I think that's actually pretty good, that half the time I was right. But salespeople we're so good at selling ourselves in the interview that sometimes that's our best sale in the whole process.
Yeah, you would expect salespeople to be able to sell themselves. The problem is, can they sell anything else?
Yeah. And it's too bad. Another thing, the person I was talking to yesterday, who was just hired in a sales role, told me was that the previous people were working remotely, and the company found out that they really did nothing in all the time. They didn't close any business in a number of many months. And I said to her, I said, that's bad management, because a manager should know how well someone can do working remotely, which is another thing we can uncover through our process. But also, you check in with people, and when they're on your team, you're coaching them weekly, so you should know what they're working on and what's happening. So to say they did nothing in a number of months, and now, as a new salesperson, you're a suspect, because they're suspecting that you're going to do the same thing. So it does amaze me at times, because we should be beyond these things. And there are top companies that are beyond these things. So if your company is still struggling with some of this, you should know that you don't need to.
Yeah. And in the comments, hello from Dallas. And I've got titles of LinkedIn users. So LinkedIn user, network and invest in yourself because of the lack of support. And this is true. We've got to be responsible for our own career journeys, but there's got to be something. I mean, why would you join an organization that's not going to give you any support, poor management, poor leadership? Of course, you need to invest in yourself, but it's got to be a balance between the two as well, hasn't it?
Yeah, I thought about that. When I was newer in sales, I didn't really know any better. And so it wasn't really my fault that I didn't always have great managers. I had 23 managers over my sales career. And I always say that some were awesome and some were awful. What I came to do was just like this, the LinkedIn user said, I invested in myself. I would have my own spiffs and sales contests when I had a bad manager, because I would cheer myself on, and I would compete with myself, even if we weren't doing it, team wide. And if my manager was just, in some cases useless, not helpful at all. So, but you must, Janice, you have to be at a company where leadership is impressive, where you believe in the products and services, where you're getting support and your career is developing. If not, I'd keep one eye open, and I'd be, on the lookout for something where we know leaders, we know managers that care about their teams and really work to develop them. And those are the teams that I would be on today if I was in corporate.
I think that you have to be really clear about what your own career goals are. Really know thyself first, what your needs are, how you're going to get to the next stage. And I think, Laurie, the recruitment process is an indication of what your career path will be within the organization. I've discovered that the career process seems to be very long and it's getting longer. Sometimes 6 months, 3 months. And what happens in that process is that the good people will go off to another job. They won't wait. If they're really good, and companies talk a lot about recruiting top talent, but they don't have an efficient process to identify that top talent. So what they do is they have 5 rounds of interviews, 5 rounds that may take 5 months. So what happens then, that the top talent that they're trying to attract and identify and engage with leaves, and that means the pool that they have is not the top talent. So it seems a bit mindless, this whole process, that you're just adding in more stages to interview rather than making the whole process more efficient.
Yes, less time is critical if you want top players, like you said, because top players are in demand all over, and they can easily get interviews where they want. And if you're a top performer and you're not getting interviews, reach out to me, because I have some ideas for you. But if you can show the commitment and the responsibility and your outlook to the potential people that are hiring, the hiring manager and HR, it should be able to move forward in a streamlined manner. When it's taking long, you're right, it's a red flag, and I'd be very cautious of that.
Yeah. Okay, so Laurie, let's talk about, there's two sides of this coin. So there are the people that want to be recruited and those that are recruiting. So let's look at the process of those that are recruiting. So I mentioned about the predictive validity of the tools they're using at the moment. What is a better process to ensure that they have the 92% success?
Yeah, I think the first thing, we want to hire diverse, and, we want to be as inclusive as possible. And so by throwing your net out further than maybe you did previously is one important aspect. You're also going to get more candidates that way too. So rethink how you go about things, but throw the net wide. Let people post on LinkedIn. If a senior manager can post, we're looking to build a more inclusive sales team. We'd love, people to apply. If you have any questions, reach out. Someone on my team will get back to you. It can be we have tools that make it easier to do that now than we ever have. And then we need a process that's the same for everybody. So everyone goes through a certain process. We happen to use tools that will speed it up. And we like that because it's going to help hire the best candidates. And so we would do that next. And then with those results, we'd move people forward, or we'd thank them for their time, because if they're not coachable, And if they're not trainable, and if they are not strong with their desire and commitment, they're not going to be good on your team. And there's no sense in putting them through 4 or 5 interviews with anybody, because they're not going to change. If someone is not coachable, they're not going to change anytime soon. They may learn the hard way over time, but it shouldn't be on in your role, on your watch. It should be elsewhere that people learn how to be coachable. So start with those things, and then have this repeatable process that helps keep things equal and helps keep things moving, and you don't get bogged down. That's where the problem lies, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I love that you mentioned about diversity, because we talk about this so much, don't we, Laurie? And
Yeah.
almost being able to throw anybody at this process. That's what you want, not
Yeah.
limiting yourself, thinking that this is a good salesperson based on
Right.
past performance. As soon as they move into a new role, that isn't necessarily guaranteed to
Right.
be the best fit. So throwing the net really as wide as possible, because you have a robust process that's going to identify, the cream will rise to the top. And you mentioned drive, you mentioned coachability, and all of these things are not necessarily traditional sales skill that we're recruiting for.
Right.
There's different aspects. So perhaps kind of let's delve into why these things, or what these competencies are that's so important in sales.
Well, I don't like to only talk about sports analogies when I give analogies, but this is one that I think is a really good analogy. I am a sports fan. I know not everyone is. If you have someone with more desire and commitment, and someone who will take responsibility, has a positive outlook, and they're motivated, my goodness, you can teach them so many different things. You can teach them what to say. You can teach them about your messaging. It's so much better than just saying, well, you've been in sales, so obviously you'll be able to sell our product or service. It's just not true. It is not true. And like you said, Janice, past performance in sales does not indicate future success. We know that. It's documented. And people see it. They'll think, oh, this person's in the industry, Janice. They're really great. I think you'll love them. They know so many people. And I would say, invite them to your holiday party, but they may not be the most ideal candidate to be helping you create, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars in revenues. It takes more than that. So we want to look for those key competencies that will help them succeed. And we also want to know how they deal with rejection, and how they are in terms of talking about money and things like that you don't normally, they're not typical interview questions. So there's a whole process to it. And then there are the learned skills, consultative selling, which has many different attributes to it, and selling value, which has many different attributes. Those all can be taught. And if they're strong with the will to sell, the desire and the commitment and the responsibility and the outlook and motivation, then we don't care so much about how much they know about consultative selling, as long as there's someone there that can train them and that can coach them and help support them. Now, if they don't have that, clearly they need to have all those skills.
Yeah. Yeah. And, this is a process that identifies the essential skills that are as an indicator of success, sales success, on the job sales success. That's what you need to know. You don't need to know what their past history is, what their resume looks like, how good they go to the same school as you, and all of that is not a predictor of sales success. So once you've got that, your book is absolutely brilliant, She Sells, which is for everybody. So once you've got that, there's certain things that need to be done. The example that you gave, this organization was not going to support this new candidate. So there's no point recruiting an ideal top talent if you're not going to keep them? So what are the essential things that companies need to do?
Yeah, if they're startups, they need to know their value, their differentiator. They need to know their ICP, who they're targeting, and they need to have this information ready for the rep and not let them just figure it out and dive in. I've seen that so many times, unfortunately, and this will not make them successful. They also need to have regular times to coach and develop people. And if you don't have someone on the inside who has time to do that, then you hire a coach to help. Now, I don't think that's optimum. It's not necessarily as good as developing a sales manager or managers to do it. Yet someone needs to do that role if you want to develop your sellers. And I think that's a key differentiator, because I know when I was in sales, there were very few people that really helped develop me over my career, unfortunately. But I tried to find people. I found role models, and I would see the top salespeople. And this is good for individual contributors. If you're not getting good coaching from your manager, find out, see who's doing the best work and just see what they're doing and do what they do, and ignore the loud people who are complaining about their comp plan and how you can't hit quota, and those are the loudest people on the sales team, usually. At least that's my experience. And you just need to say, yeah, that's great. And then go find the ones that are closing the deals quietly and just working away and getting things done, and find out what they're doing and do that, because success leaves clues.
Yeah, absolutely. We'd love to take some of your questions, so please do put them in the chat. You've got Laurie and myself here to answer any of your questions. If you're struggling, if you're a company, if you're a new recruit, please do put your questions in, and we will endeavor to answer them.
And shout out to the women sales pros that are on the call, because I know we spread the word with them, and we're lucky that we have this whole network of people who, we can refer when we can't do it, when it's something that is not what we do. It's not our specialty. And so those women sales pros are great. We just have our new directory that just came out, and, we have lots of resources for people.
Yeah, mention the website link.
Yeah, womensalespros.com is where to go, and anyone can connect with either of us to know more, to get their hands on the directory. It's actually not up on the site yet, but it will be shortly. There is a web-based directory, but we have one even stronger now with more details about what their skill sets are.
Yeah. I want to pick up on the coaching. What I love about this data-informed process is, once a candidate or even an existing salesperson has been through it, then there are coaching notes. It identifies the gaps in the competencies, and it will give the manager the coaching notes. And often what I find in sales is that we apply the one size fits all. We need sales training. Okay, what kind of sales training? Well, it's almost like any kind of, let's throw something at it, and something's bound to stick. The problem is, salespeople are individuals. They have individual strengths. Being able to identify where are the gaps in that individual, where do they need support, where do they need additional coaching to bring them up to their highest performance levels. It can't be a one size fits all. It has to be individual. And so managers really struggle with coaching, and we know that this works. So being able to have those coaching notes for the individual to help and support that individual is wonderful.
Yeah, and I would take it even so far as the sales kickoffs.
Yeah.
The one topic, unless it's mindset, which I think definitely covers everybody. And I love when people are talking about mindset, when there's some great things that people can take back and do. but skill set wise, we are all different. And if you had a roadmap for each person on your team, and that is possible these days, which is really amazing. I wish I had a roadmap back in the day. And I'm just so glad that there are tools that can do that now and processes that can do it, and that we know how to do that, which is really great. But yeah, even think about the sales kickoff. It's not about everybody needing closing skills, because they're probably lack of qualifying. We're probably not reaching decision makers. We're probably not calling on all the decision making team. So there are many different aspects, but we want to know where people's strengths are, and then you can tailor a solution for them, which is amazing.
Yeah, and from a recruitment point of view, can you imagine having a starter and having the coaching notes from the very beginning, so that person feels supported, they feel that they're on a journey with you, and your aim is to get them into the top quartile, but you as a manager has the guidance notes.
I mean, that's a game changer, because all of a sudden the company that's hiring me is saying, you have some great strengths, and it looks like there's a few areas that we can help you with. And that's what we're here for. We're going to help you be even better and better, and ultimately reach, the level you want to be at our company, or, ultimately wherever you go. But while you're here, we're going to help develop you and turn you into an even better version of, what you're doing now. It doesn't mean you're not strong now, but we're going to help you be even better. Like, hardly anybody does that. And that's such a wonderful gift that leadership can give reps.
Yeah, it certainly is. You feel supported in the organization. You want to stay, and longevity really does impact your results, your quota attainment. So, Laurie, we have a session next week as well. So I'm really keen to make sure that listeners know that we have. My cursor has just decided to stop working. Okay, let me get my so the session for next week.
A week from today.
Yeah, a week today. A week
same
today.
Time.
Yeah, same time next week. So yeah, we want to make sure that listeners know about this and come along to the session next week and have all of their questions prepared. So we're talking about elevating your sales team and unleashing hidden potential. So it's leading on from this discussion, talking about recruitment and the process that you can use. So any questions from the audience as we begin to wrap up here? And we've got in the comments a link to the session for next week. So make sure that you register so that you get the reminders of this session. It's only 30 minutes, but there's really key information that Laurie and I will be sharing with you. And we would love your comments as well, so we know that we're answering all of your questions. So Laurie, as we wrap up, what about for the person that's been recruited? What are the key points that they need to look out for, besides reading your book, She Sells? What are the key points that they need to look at to make sure that they know they're in the right place? This is the right organization for them.
Yeah, I think having strong leadership is key. I mean, I would rather go to a company that has a top recognized sales manager that, we've heard of through LinkedIn, people give kudos to, people on their team rave about, than I would, I'd take a pay cut. I would not a cut from what I did previously, but if I had two jobs and offers, and one had a little more pay, but it was questionable management, and the other had really strong leadership, I would do that, because there's so much you can learn from good leaders. And that's a key to success, and their support is critical. So I think those are my top two things, Janice.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Thank you so much, Laurie. I've really enjoyed the discussion. As always, you're a mind of information and experience. I absolutely adore working with you, and I can't wait until next week to have another discussion about unleashing hidden potential for existing sales teams. Thank you so much, Laurie.
Thank you. Good to see everyone.